This episode is brought to you by HP Instant Ink. No one is reading your mind, but HP Instant Ink knows when your printer is running low and sends new cartridges before you run out. So you never have to think about ink. For details, visit hp.com/instant ink Spotify. Conditions apply.
Okay, so of course Tommy Guns has to be the first one in. IB Nation in the house. Tommy says, didn't the last time major realignment happened, the Texas governor tried to mandate that if UT moved to a new conference, that the new conference would also have to take some of the smaller schools?
Yeah, but it was a different governor. I don't believe it was the current governor.
Gotcha. Oh, let's see here. Baylor, Texas Tech, and the like. Yep, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And
the other part of that, too, is if I had to get rid of a couple of those teams, so like, okay, we're not going to bring in Utah and Colorado. We'll take Baylor and TCU. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily – I mean, I think Utah and Colorado bring some value. Maybe, then screw Kansas. We don't need a basketball team, right? We'll bring, I mean, there's things you can do. It doesn't have to be these 16 teams. I think at least 10 to 12 of these teams have to be part of it because it would make a lot of sense that way.
Right.
But there's a couple teams.
Yeah.
I'm okay if you don't want to bring in West Virginia and Rutgers, as I said, because I think Notre Dame can bring that. I'm okay if you don't want to bring in Kansas. And honestly, I'm okay if you don't want to bring in UCLA. I think UCLA would be cool because I want to keep that USC-UCLA rivalry. Right. Plus, we're already kind of looking to disband the Pac-12 anyway, right?
We took a lot of the Pac-12 teams.
Yeah.
But I see, I like UCLA and I like Kansas from the basketball side of things.
Right.
And I'm trying to think, look, the two big sports, right? You got football, you got basketball. And I want to make sure that there's some basketball blue bloods involved in this conference, right?
And you know what I would love to see is I think that for basketball is I would love to see Notre Dame and UCLA playing every year. I would make that, hey, we'll come to your place one year, you come to ours, and reestablish that rivalry. That'd be awesome. And that'd be great for Notre Dame, too. I think getting to go out west and play in California every year.
Yep. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Brent Nichols has an interesting comment. He goes, do the teams need the conferences or do the conferences need the teams? It depends on where things are going.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about, just get rid of conferences altogether. I think that's kind of silly. In my opinion.
Well, that's Wild West type stuff, and I don't know that would work out.
Because then how do you really gauge? I think what conferences do is they give you some sort of measuring stick for just how good certain teams are. Because number one, we know who the best of this conference is, and then you can take other things like, this is what this conference did in matchups against other teams. Right. And it gives you some sort of gauge, whereas it's just this round robin and you just play whoever the heck you want. How do you really know how good teams are?
Sure. Exactly.
And I also think, too, that conferences, again, if we're talking money, conferences give you a regional branding that allows you to create advertising, right? It's essentially that's all hey, the SEC, right? I mean, SEC fans don't just root for their teams that they like. They also root for the teams they hate when they play anyone else that's not a part of who they are, right? You don't think, it's like if I'm Notre Dame, right? I'm a Notre Dame fan. Okay. So my day, Vince, I would look at a team like Michigan and I don't care who Michigan's playing. I'm not rooting for them to win.
No, never. Not a chance.
It's just not happening. Whereas if you're in the SEC, if you're Alabama, I know a lot of Alabama fans that when Auburn's playing Ohio State or Oregon, they're rooting for Auburn. Because they still want the SEC to win.
Sure.
And that's a unique thing. And I think you take that away.
It would be hard for me to get on board with as a fan of an independent school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you necessarily have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. It's just the thought, even the thought process.
But I kind of like that. I mean, honestly, that's one of the things I've kind of started to wrap my head around a little bit, Vince, is getting used to that notion of, there would be more than just Notre Dame games that would matter to me.
Yeah.
Last game of the year, Notre Dame's going to play USC, and Notre Dame wins. They clinch the Eastern Division. Okay, but Texas and Oklahoma are playing 2 games. They're tied for first. Texas beat Oklahoma in the regular season, and whoever wins, then that's going to determine that'd be kind of fun. And that's what we saw a little bit this year, although we kind of knew who the ACC, the other division champ was going to be. Or, it wasn't even divisions. It was just, you knew who the second team was going to be. Yeah. It was Notre Dame and Clemson. It was never any debate, but I think that would be fun. And I think that'd be a new thing for Notre Dame fans. And I think it would give teams new teams to root for, new teams to hate, and all those kind of things. And just, it would bring some new blood into it. And then not only that, but what we didn't talk about is the fallout of Notre Dame starting this conference on every league except the SEC, right? But then the SEC would say, okay, well, the Big 12 just took a hit. So maybe there's a team or two we'd want to poach there, and then there's a team or two in the ACC we want to poach.
Right.
Okay, hey, Clemson, come join us. We'll put you in the East. You won't have to play Alabama but once every 10 years or something like that. Hey, Florida State, why don't you come join us? Come join whatever the case may be. And then does the ACC become the team that goes away? Or Big 12 is going to go away. So then the SEC and Pac-12 are going to fight for some of those teams.
Sure.
And then the Big 10 is going to probably try to take a couple of those teams. If you're the Big 10, you're calling down. I mean, if you're the AD at Iowa, you're calling, and the president of Iowa, you're calling up the Big 10 office. Hey, please bring Iowa State into the league.
Yeah,
we need Iowa State. Maybe maybe this conference doesn't get Kansas because the Big 10 says no, we got to bring Kansas and Kansas State on board. Or, who knows how that would go, right? That would make for some.
It's going to be a free for all.
Yeah, it would, and you just to me, 2 leagues are just going to go away.
Yeah,
I think, and I think my bet would be the ACC.
Really?
And
I feel like the ACC is in a strong position. No,
not for football.
Yeah,
it's a terrible football conference. That's why their payouts are so low. They're not even making half of what the SEC teams are making.
That's true. That's true. But do you think the strength of them as a basketball conference is going to do anything?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. What you could maybe do is you could get with the SEC and say, hey, look, Clemson can say, hey, listen, we're going to bring in, because it doesn't have to stop at 16. You could have a super conference at 18 teams if you really wanted.
I suppose.
And just say, hey, look, we're going to start this new league. We want you to kick, this team and this team and this team to the West. We're going to bring Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, and Duke, right? And we're going to join you for football. Clemson's the only one that's worth a darn in the football, but, we're going to, kick booty in the basketball part of it. But we're going to get that big money.
Right.
So I think that I think the ACC would go away, at least as we know it, because I just don't see I don't see how who's going to leave the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the Pac-12 to go to the ACC. And if the ACC stayed alive, it would be because they went and got Cincinnati and SMU and Houston, and then they no longer really matter. So then if you're Clemson, you're like, okay, yeah, we're dominating, but nobody cares because this league sucks. We're not making money. We're getting $35 million a year, and these other teams are getting 80, right? Because we're looking 10 years down the road, that kind of thing. That's an
interesting thought.
I don't see how why do you think the ACC is so desperately trying to get Notre Dame into their conference to the point where they're saying, hey, even if you only come for 5 games,
right,
we'll let you in. Think about that. Why? If the ACC was this great conference, they'd tell Notre Dame, hey, go pound sand. If Notre Dame tried to say to the SEC, hey, look, we're going to join you. We want to join you for basketball, but only for basketball. Or if they tried to do that with the Big 10, but we're going to stay independent football. The Big 10 say, no, go pound sand. You're going to join us for everything or not. The SEC would say the same thing. The ACC did not say that. Why? Because they're like, hey, we'd rather get you a little bit than not at all, because otherwise we're hemorrhaging. You know what I mean? And you look at the money that the ACC makes compared to the other leagues. Why? Because basketball does not generate big TV contracts. It just doesn't. Especially the way that college basketball is now, where the regular season means very little on a national scale. It just doesn't.
Sure.
So that's why I think the ACC, as we know it, would go away.
Interesting. All right, let's get back to some of these comments.
You did bring one in. Would there be a scenario in which these would just become football conferences?
Right. And then you
stay in your other sports and other, so like that would be the other interesting part. It would.
So confusing.
It would be very confusing, but I could see it.
Yeah, no, I could too.
I could see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
the NCAA goes away.
Yeah,
I could see it. Like you said, it would then be a little challenging because those other sports, like, okay, who are we playing in and all that? But yeah, it would be very interesting. And then who owns the TV rights to those non-football schools kind of thing. But yeah, it would be very fascinating.
Tommy says, could you see SEC maybe giving the boot to any of the programs already in the conference? Maybe Tennessee with all their issues. Think West Virginia could be forced into independence if the Big 12 implodes. Neither the Big 10 or the ACC wanted them last time around.
Well, I know one conference commissioner, right?
That's
that
right.
would take West Virginia.
Hey, man, I'll be the associate commissioner. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I think that sounds like
take
a lot
West
of fun.
Virginia.
Yeah,
I'd take West Virginia.
Right. This potential move.
Well, let me respond to this first part of this question.
Go ahead.
I don't see. I think I'd be curious if the SEC would be willing to get rid of Vanderbilt. Like, if let's just say Vanderbilt was the deciding vote, and Alabama and Florida and Georgia said, okay, you know what? Screw you guys. You stink anyway. You bring no value to our conference. We're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're going to bring them in, and we're going to go get somebody else.
Right.
You know, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But they're not going to kick Tennessee out with all their issues, because if you started getting rid of SEC teams that were going through NCAA recruiting, cheating, violation issues, you'd have to kick out just about every team in the league other than Vanderbilt.
Right. I'll give them time. They're already stealing recruits from Notre Dame. All right.
Well, they've had their own issues. It just hasn't been in regards to recruiting and cheating.
I'm kidding. All right. Kevin Thomas says this potential move to the SEC only makes that Swarbrick did strengthen our position.
Makes what? Yeah.
What
Swarbrick did to strengthen our position in relation to a 12-team playoff. Yeah, but that is true. That is definitely true. And if you get to the Power 16, if you get to the super conferences, though, Kevin, my only concern would be the part about would they be able to put a good enough schedule together to even be considered a playoff team? Because if BYU beat Coastal Carolina last year and ran the table, they're still not getting in the playoff.
No, they're not. Yeah,
they're not. The only team like that I've ever thought that had a chance to get in the playoff, had you gone back and done it, was maybe TCU and Boise State. And I think Boise might have had a better shot than TCU because Boise had some big wins over some really good teams back in the day.
The economy is made up of real people doing real stuff, and it affects everything. Which you obviously know since you're a real person doing real stuff. Marketplace is here to help you get smart about everything beyond the what of the day's business and economic news. We dig into the how and the why with the real people driving our economy. From big tech and interest rates to small businesses and what's happening at the Fed. Marketplace breaks it all down so you don't have to. Listen to Marketplace wherever you get your podcasts.
And again, Searcher Green, we kind of talked about this as well. I just want to hit on it. Why would Texas and Oklahoma want in the SEC? Wouldn't there be playoff chances drop considerably with the 12 team? Can't you just win the MAC and get in?
Just keep winning the Big 12 and get in.
Right.
You can't about that.
You can't just win the MAC and get in either. You have to be one of the top rated teams who won your conference championship.
The only way you get in, you have to be one of the 6 highest ranked conference champs.
Right, exactly.
I think there only been one time in the last decade that a MAC team would have been that. Maybe. I think Western Michigan, when they went undefeated with PJ Fleck, maybe would have done that. But I'm not even 100% certain on that.
D-Rock says, with the Longhorn Network, what is the likelihood Texas goes independent?
0.
Because there's not enough money in it for them.
And it hasn't made them the money that they thought that it was going to make them.
Right. Yep.
It just hasn't. Yeah.
Old Grim says, with the ESPN losing money, where does the cash come from?
Let me say something else, though. That would be fascinating. What if Notre Dame's What if Notre Dame said, hey, we're going to stay independent, but we're basically going to make the independent a conference financially. So ESPN or CBS, it's the independent league, right? And there's no conference champ. You don't have to play anybody that's an independent, but we're going to be the independent league, and you guys are going to get rights to the home games from everyone in our league, every independent team, right? And so, okay, Texas, now all of a sudden, essentially Notre Dame has created a conference that's not really a conference, right? And so there might be incentive in that regards. Because why did all those other teams leave the independent? Because financially started seeing these TV deals start going around in the early 90s. Notre Dame got NBC. That's when Arkansas left. That's, the SEC, or the Southwest Conference. It's when Penn State was looking to join the Big Ten. It's when a lot of that first conference realignment started happening, is when the TV deals blew up, right? Well, now if all of a sudden independents are making money, it's an independent league. You can schedule whoever the heck you want. Then maybe you could get back to that. Then Texas could keep the Longhorn Network, make their little extra stash on the side. But then they also get this money for being an independent, right? So you're still getting your TV money. And then you're independent. You only have like 15 or 16 teams that are independents, right? Because okay, it's going to be these programs. So if like UMass and we're not giving UMass $50 million. We're not giving Liberty $50 million. It's these programs that are part of the independent league kind of thing would make it very interesting. Maybe they could do something like that. And then that's where you'd have the Texas would have that desire to do it. But just the Longhorn Network alone isn't, because Texas isn't looking to just survive. Right. They also don't have the kind of other resources that Notre Dame has. You know what I mean? So it's interesting.
How do you answer this one from Old Grim about ESPN losing money? Where does the cash come from? The ESPN, are they losing money?
Oh yeah. In a lot of ways, they're losing. Yeah,
but they just paid $1 billion to keep the NFL.
They're losing money in regards to being able to use that money to keep employees. A lot of the money they have is going towards things like this.
Yeah, right.
Keeping leagues. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, I have that same question, Old Grim. But hey, look, we live in a nation where we can continue to raise our debt by trillions and trillions of dollars and go deeper and deeper in debt and just print money whenever the heck we want to. So I don't ask too many questions when you try to figure out, where ESPN is coming from. So a little bit of a political rant, but
money keeps ending up in my bank account from the government, even though I don't ask for it. I don't know where it's coming from. Whatever. Just got a new dishwasher. All right. Here's a question completely off topic. Let's play with this. Bruce Shearer says, if ND was able to sign Dante Moore, how would that work with Tyler Buckner? Both appear to have quote unquote star status and both would want to start. Would one or the other be content to be the second man?
Well, they're 2 years apart, right? And so if Tyler Buckner is as good as we think he is, then they're teammates for a year. Dante comes, learns, just like Trevor Lawrence. Not Trevor Lawrence, just like DJ did at Clemson, right? Just like we've seen, just like we've seen a lot of other quarterbacks, just like Tua did when he went to Alabama with Jalen Hurts already there, just like when Kyler Murray went to Oklahoma with Baker Mayfield there. Kids are willing to do that for a year. Not every kid's necessarily looking to go in and start immediately at quarterback. But if the other guy in front of you is that good, he's not going to be there for 5 years anyway. So I think that's the way it looks. Because look, then you go to say, well, what are the other schools he's looking at? He's going to go to Michigan, right? Well, they have J.J. McCarthy, who's in the same grade as Tyler Buckner. He's a 5-star quarterback. You're going to go to Ohio State. They have Kyle McCord, who is a top 30 quarterback, right? Top 30 national player.
Yeah, right. Not top 30 quarterback, top 30 player.
In that same class. And then in 2022, they have a commitment from the guy that everyone except, I think, SI All-American. And that's because I don't think he's the best quarterback in the country. Neither is John Garcia. And that's when we came up with our quarterback list. We like, okay, he's not the best quarterback in the country. Maybe he will be someday, but he ain't right now. But he's considered the number one player in the country and all this, and Quinn Ewers. So, okay, then where do you go? Okay, I'm going to go to Clemson. Oh, okay, they've got Cade Klubnik. They've signed plenty of top quarterbacks. Okay, well, I'm going to go to Oklahoma, who just signed Caleb Evans. And, where's he going to go? So, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to Cincinnati because I know I'm not going to have to compete against anybody at Cincinnati. Or I'm going to go to Michigan State. If you go to Penn State, okay, you got to compete against Drew Aller, right? That's the thing is there's going to be a top quarterback at every good school in the country. Sure. You got to battle.
You got to compete.
And most kids are willing to do that.
Yeah, these top kids want to battle. Rare is it that the kid's like, well, I'm the best. I don't want to compete for it. Just give me the job.
And that's not a guy you're going to want to win with anyway.
Exactly. So, and that's nothing against the question, Bruce. I think it's a good question. It's just you got to understand.
It's a great question.
You got to understand the mentality of a lot of these kids. They want to compete for what they want. What they want.
And that's a good sign for you if a kid doesn't want to compete. And he's saying, okay, then where are you going to go?
Right.
Okay, you want to go to Michigan State? Cool, go to Michigan State. That's all right. Because we're not going. If you don't want to battle and you don't compete, then we're not going to win with you anyway.
Yeah.
And Dante Moore, let me say this: Dante Moore is not afraid of competing with anybody.
Right. Kevin Thomas says, "Hey, when are we going to schedule? When are the schedule previews being done? Purdue and Toledo keeps getting pushed back a week." And Tommy Guns responds with, "Kevin, they both stink. ND wins both games by 30. There's your preview." and then Bruce says, "Old Grim. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's this one." He goes, "Man, if only Ohio State could have used that same preview in 2018
that's
when
a
they
good
got beat by
comeback.
Purdue." So
it's a very good comeback.
That's good stuff.
Very good comeback.
Look, we're trying, but this was such a cool topic to jump at that we called an audible today. And we'll
I'm
get
sorry.
to it.
This is a lot more fun to talk about than Purdue and
Purdue and Toledo are just not fun topics.
No.
It's just we're going through the motions.
I'm never go through the motions.
You know what I mean?
It just wouldn't be as much fun to talk about.
That's all.
Is it mostly just comments or something?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah. Here we go. Nolan says, "Please join the Irish Breakdown Champions Lounge board. Lots of great discussion going on, and the more the merrier. I enjoy talking Notre Dame football with anyone and love some discussion."
Okay, so Nolan did join yesterday, so that is not a paid advertisement. He is not a plant.
Yeah, no, he's
not someone I put in there to convince everyone to join, but I appreciate that. Nolan's already jumped in feet first, or head first, actually, with a lot of his comments. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And I definitely want to get the more conversation going, So, I have been blown away by the number of people who have signed up so far, but a lot of people that signed up aren't talking. So let's engage.
Get it in there, baby.
Let's discuss. Let's discuss.
D-Rock says, "I'm hearing 75% of the SEC schools, 11 of the 14, must vote yes for Oklahoma and Texas to join the SEC. Hearing A&M, Missouri, and Vanderbilt are definite no's. So they only need to find one more, and then this doesn't even happen anyway."
So I'm going to have to look more into that because I've heard I've heard that it's got to be 4 is what I read. Now again, a lot of this is kind of still up for debate, but 11 of the 14 saying yes is 78.5%. That's over 75%, right? Because it's not. Here's the. I think a lot of people are doing this math and thinking 12, but it's 14 teams. 11 divided by 14 is 78.6%. So over 75% would say yes.
Right.
So
you
based on what you just said, if you're hearing that 75% of the schools must vote yes, then 11 of 14 is 78%. So that would say they're getting in.
So you need a fourth
That's
team.
what I'm saying. I think the fourth, you have to have a fourth school that says no.
Right.
If because then you get under 75%.
You're 100% correct. Yes.
In the math, I am. But again, just because the math makes sense doesn't mean that the rules are set up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I have a feeling I'm about to get bumped because my little rocker, arm is about to hit the bottom, and that's usually when it bumps me down.
Okay.
And I'm at 130. So
so kind of where I am right now.
Oh, good. All right.
So, real quick. So Nolan also says the throwback pants Alohi is wearing in the login screen. That's for Irish Breakdown. So if you go to sign in for a new account or log in, there's a photo that my wife actually took during the BC Notre Dame game in 2019 because she also does photography. And yes, I have a super talented wife. It looks a million times better than the current mustard color they're wearing. I agree. We talked about this in the show. And Nolan, I think this might have been a little bit before I remember you really being someone who asked a lot of questions. Maybe you weren't listening. You hadn't discovered us yet. But we actually put that photo up on the show one time. And if Notre Dame permanently went to those 2019 throwbacks, with
those
the
were
pants, I would be all about that.
And the numbers were huge and easy to read.
Would be all about that.
And everybody in the press box that I talked to that day was all about, everybody just loved that look.
Yeah.
Everybody, including myself. I'm hugely on board. So
I wouldn't necessarily like the mesh, like the throat. They did like a mesh looking thing.
Because they wanted to make it look
88.
like they were the mesh.
I'm fine with the jerseys the way they are now for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe the number's a little bit bigger, but it's more about the pants. That would be the thing that would need to change for me.
I get that. I did get bumped, Brian. So I am now officially at 2:00.
Okay, so Domer Grizz, excited to see more of the new Telestrated Football 101s. Hope you don't have any more technical issues today. Thanks for all you do. We're still working through that. So today we will be having a Football 101. Still trying to figure that out. I haven't been able to get my technical wizard down here to fix that for me. Because she's doing his own job. Can you imagine that? putting her own job, her own business in front of mine. Can't believe it.
I know.
So disappointed
selfish
in her. Nolan says A&M is saying that they joined the SEC for the exclusivity. They wanted to be the only Texas school in the SEC, and that's something, Vince, that you had mentioned.
Yep,
you mentioned earlier. So yeah, they're gonna try to throw whatever,
try to block them out. Yeah, and I get it. I get it.
Yep. Here's an interesting comment from Searcher Green, who's from Alabama. He said SEC would probably remove A&M and Missouri to get Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how long those teams are signed into the SEC, but I mean, if that was my choice, either no Texas and Oklahoma, but we keep Missouri and A&M, or forget you guys, you're gone, and we're going to take them. I mean, that's honestly the weight that if the SEC really wants this to happen, that's the weight they can throw around. If you don't vote yes, we're going to kick you out of the league. I mean, we're going to get Texas and Oklahoma. So either you're in the SEC with them, or you're not in the SEC anymore, and you can replace them in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And if I was A&M and Missouri, I'd say fine. I really would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want any part of that action. But that could now whether that would be a hollow threat or not would be kind of interesting.
Yes, it would be. I'd love to be on a fly on the wall on a lot of these negotiations. Let me tell you, big time.
Yeah. Tommy's really all about them booting Tennessee. Listen, they're not booting Tennessee. They're not getting rid of Tennessee. They don't care that Tennessee's going through. They're just mad that you guys were dumb enough to get caught. That's all they care about in the SEC. I mean, they don't care about that. Demetrius Rex asks, again, not related to this question, but we answer all questions in our mailbag portion. Are we going to start Tyler Buckner out against Ohio State for the first time next year? There surely has to be some sort of quarterback transition plan midseason this year. No, there isn't, and there shouldn't be. Your goal for the Notre Dame coaches in 2021, you have one goal. What do you need to do to win a championship in 2021?
Correct.
Now, if this was a team that maybe played a brutal schedule and it was a team that, look, we don't have a chance to compete with those teams right now, then maybe you make some of those decisions. But that's not the reality of Notre Dame in 2021. And if it was, they wouldn't have brought in Jack Cohn.
Right.
So now, do you have a transition plan in place if you fall out of championship contention? Then I would say maybe you consider that.
Well, and your transition plan can also include having Tyler Buckner involved in games. He doesn't have to be
Well, we've already said that.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that feel like he needs to get starts to get ready for 2022.
He needs playing time.
I mean, you look, if you want to use recent history as an example, I mean, Jameis Winston had 0 career snaps the year before he led Florida State to a national championship. I mean, Trevor Lawrence had 0 career college snaps until the year he led Clemson to a championship. I'm hesitant to really say that too hard because that kind of gets into my you don't use the exception to prove the rule thing. But the point is if Tyler – the reason I'm using it here is because if Tyler Buckner's as good as we think he can be, a year in the system is going to prepare him to go win a championship.
Right.
And the other thing too is the Ohio State game is not the end-all be-all. It's not like you lose that game and you're out. The problem is there's too many Notre Dame fans that have convinced themselves because ESPN said so, who's wrong about everything, that you have to be undefeated to make the playoff. If Notre Dame loses to Ohio State in the opener and beats Clemson and goes 11-1, they're in the playoff. I mean, they are. They would have beaten USC. I mean, they will beat USC, Stanford, Clemson. I mean, their schedule in 2022. I'm going to pull it up right now because if Notre Dame loses the opener and then runs the table, there's plenty of opportunities for them to get back at it. They'd play Marshall, Cal, at North Carolina, who's going to be ranked, Stanford, UNLV, Clemson at home, Navy, at USC, home against BC, and at Syracuse. Plus, there's one game left, and there's people talking about how maybe they might get BYU and play in Vegas, which – Vince, I'd probably need help covering that game just to give you a heads up if that happens. So just be prepared to have to travel for that game. And just, there's going to be a lot on the plate. And you may need to be out there to help me cover that Vegas game.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough, but I think I can make it work.
Yeah, suck it up and deal with it, buddy. You'll be okay. So there's one other game they're going to add. Based on who they have on the schedule now with Marshall and Cal and Navy, I don't think and UNLV, it's not going to be an ad of another MAC team. They've already got those.
Right,
it's going to be
it's going to be a
somebody good. It's going to be a Power 5 team most likely.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So if you lose to Ohio State in the opener and then you run the table and win at Carolina, at USC, and home against Stanford, home against Clemson, you're in the playoff. So you don't need to sacrifice this whole season to be prepared to beat Ohio State in the opener. I'm more concerned about, are you going to be ready to beat Carolina in the end of September and Clemson in November? That's what I care more about.
Right.
Let's not forget that when Ohio State won its national championship of the playoff era, they lost to a 7-6 Virginia Tech team at home in the third game of the year. So they'll be okay.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. Jason Rose, I'm sorry to say it, but Texas and Oklahoma don't belong in the SEC. Texas ain't been relevant for a long time, and OU has gotten obliterated in the big games. You're the top dogs in your conference. Again, not the point. That's not why they're trying to move. They're not trying to move because they think somehow playing a tougher schedule is going to give them a better chance to win titles. They're trying to move because they're going to get tens of millions of more dollars a year, which then over the next decade equals hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what this move is about. From a sports standpoint, I don't think they belong in the SEC because two teams from the Southwest shouldn't be in the Southeastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
But Missouri is and Arkansas is, so they've given up on geography and math are two things that college presidents and athletics departments don't clearly understand or care about, right?
Right.
But, it is what it is. But, I mean, that doesn't matter. That's not that's not what goes into it. And again, we're all looking at this as this is where it is right now. Okay, 20 years ago, the conversation would have been different, right? 15 years ago, the conversation would have been different. In Texas with Vince Young could have beat anybody in the SEC, right? Oklahoma's had stretches in their career where they could beat anybody in the SEC. Okay, it wasn't that long ago, 15 years ago, Alabama would have lost by 40 to Texas.
Right.
Right. I mean, you really want to put that 05, 06 Texas teams against an Alabama team from 05, 06?
Alabama,
you know what I mean?
Back then, yeah,
right. I mean, I'll put my money on Texas. It's cyclical. You have to make these decisions long term, thinking down the road. Not like what gives us the best chance to have a great conference in 2024. It's what's going to make us the most money and make our league strong for the next 20 years or 10 years or whatever the case may be. And the reality is, anyone with a brain in the SEC is going to say, "Yeah, we can add the Dallas market to our conference. Sign me up. I don't care what their football team has or hasn't done. We're going to get the Texas market. Thank you. Yes, we'll take that." Tommy Guns, he asked this question. Apparently didn't know where we were going with this show today. Could Notre Dame, Texas, and OU start a new conference?
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. Yes. Searcher Green, who's from Alabama, said the other SEC schools don't really care what Missouri and A&M's opinions are. They have still never been considered real SEC schools, willing to bet whatever Alabama votes will go, the others will follow suit. Again, I think you're mistaking self-preservation. You're overlooking the idea of self-preservation that some of these schools are going to have. Alabama doesn't care because they're Alabama, right? But there's a lot of teams in the SEC are going to look at that and say, "Yeah, that's not good for us." And there's going to be at least a few presidents and ADs are going to say, "Yeah, this may make us some money, but we're going to suck." And then if we suck, again, this is where you don't have enough people that have any business sense whatsoever in athletics.
Right, exactly.
If we suck, we may get an extra $10 million in league money, but how much money are we going to lose from our boosters, from attendance, from online sales, because we suck? You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, we may make money here, but we're going to lose money here. So how does it really help us? Right. And so we'd rather stay where we're at and then get good and then make even more money because we're good. I mean, again, I don't think Alabama should go, "Hey, you're going to vote how we want to vote." Oh, okay. Right. If it makes sense for them financially, then they're going to vote that way. Right. And there's going to be enough teams that are going to say, "Hey, look, this isn't going to be good for us financially."
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to come down to. It's not going to be about, "Oh, geez, this isn't good for us from a football standpoint." There's part of that argument. But when I talk about Tennessee and Florida, do you guys really want to play second fiddle to Texas and Oklahoma? I'm not talking about just on the field. I'm talking about what is that going to do to your bottom line when it comes to raising money off of a program that's going 8-4 every year. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Notre Dame has seen that, right? Everyone's gone through that. So that's kind of how I look at it. OC Irish fan, let's drop the East-West divisions. How about the grits and red-eye gravy divisions? Yummy. Okay. Joseph Barrett says, Brian and Vince, do you think the NIL, and that's name, image, likeness, could level the playing field in recruiting? 3 and mid-4 level 4-star players may seek Power 5 programs for may seek lesser Power 5 programs for immediate PT and exposure. I think it could. I mean, I still think a lot of these kids are going to say, if I'm being recruited by Bama, I'm still going to have, you got to
remember the brand that's going to be behind you.
But also I was going to say too, Vince, is Joseph's problem again is he's using common sense, right? Common sense would tell you, Joseph, and this is a compliment to you, not an insult, is, hey, you go to this other school and you're going to be the guy at, Purdue as opposed to the third string at Ohio State. Again, because he's saying 3-star and mid-level 4-star, right? You're not going to make money being the third string quarterback at Ohio State. Now, if you're a 5-star, you're going to go to a big-time program because Bryce Young has not played a meaningful snap in his career. Nick Saban's already saying he's like getting close to 7 figures, right? Why? Because he was the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country coming out of high school, and he played at Modern
and he's
Day.
about to be starting at Alabama.
Right, but that's why. And whereas another kid say, hey, look, I'm going to make a lot more money being a 4-year starter at Purdue than I would 3-year starter, maybe a year starter, Notre Dame or something like that. I think there's that would make a lot of sense. The problem is a lot of kids don't, and a lot of parents don't have a realistic understanding of who their kid is. I've shared this story before. I was coaching D3, and I'm using this example for a reason. I was at a D3 school, had an All-American running back that year, set a school record for all-purpose yards and touchdowns. We had our first 10-win season in school history that year. We made the college football playoffs for the first time in our school's history. We won our first-round game by 50, and it was because of our run game. I was the running backs coach. After almost every game, my 4-string running back's dad would stalk me around the campus asking me why his kid wasn't playing. If that's happening at the Division III, the point is, if that's happening at the Division III level, do you think some parent whose kid is getting offers from Power 5 schools looks at his kid and says, hey, he's a 3-star, he should probably go to Kansas? No. They're thinking, go to Oklahoma, because if you start there, you're going to make X amount of dollars, right? I'd like to think that common sense would prevail, and with some kids it will, but there's also still going to be a lot of kids who see that potential of getting X number that so-and-so got at that school compared to the max at this other school is not even what some starters are getting in another school, and I want that money. Well,
and sometimes the money won't matter. I mean, for some kids, the money's not going to matter. I mean, is it going to be in the conversation? Sure. I don't know. Well, I mean, we're going to have to see how it plays out as far as, what schools School A can be like, look, you're going to make this if you come here because we've already got it all lined up for you. NIL, we got it lined up. You're going to make this, versus another school that does the same thing. The money's not the same, but the opportunity is better to play more. Right. Who knows? I don't know if that's
something that these kids are going to have to factor into it. And
exactly.
Unfortunately, a lot of kids aren't going to make a smart decision. And now it's more and more kids are going to be making what they believe to be a financial decision. And that's unfortunate.
That is unfortunate.
Going to a smaller school and making X amount of dollars now and getting that opportunity to maybe present yourself for the next level as opposed to being a backup at so-and-so school is, has to be factored into it as well. Sean Higgins asks, I've noticed Reese and Freeman making the rounds in the podcast circuit in recent weeks. Curious, does the program push them to make these appearances or are they doing that on their own? Neither.
Yeah, I was going to say
how it works is we make requests and they say yes or no. Yep. And they have to go through ultimately, Brian Kelly can say, no, you guys aren't talking to anybody in the media. Kudos to Brian Kelly for letting them do more of this. Brian Kelly did not have to say, yeah, it's okay for Coach Reese to go on Irish Breakdown. He didn't have to do that. He has the ability to say no. And my understanding is,
in the past.
And my understanding is, my understanding is all of these interviews have to go through him. They have to get the okay because you have to go through the SID. If I set up an interview with Tommy Reese and I did an interview and I didn't involve Katie Lonergan in it, she'd get on me, rightfully so, because it'd be, hey, Katie, I don't care what your job is. Screw you. I'm going to go do this because it's going to be good for me. That's a terrible way to develop a relationship, and to be undermining her, and I wouldn't do that. So you go through Katie. She goes to the coach to make sure the coach wants to do it. The coach says yes, you're going to get the approval from the boss, and the boss has to say yes or no. So the fact is, you know, the fact these guys are making these appearances to me shows that Brian Kelly, it's another example of Brian Kelly turning over a little bit of a different leaf, new leaf, and saying, hey, I'm going to let my coordinators get more exposure and experience, which helps them in two ways. Number one is obviously it helps them prepare to get their names out there for future head coaching jobs. The other thing is, and this is something that's always drove me nuts, it's great for them on the recruiting trail when recruits can see these guys on TV and see these guys and, hey, come play for me. They become these personalities almost. That's good for your program.
Sure.
As long as you have coaches that you know are going to not embarrass you.
Right.
And Brian Kelly has two very smart, savvy coordinators that know what to say and what not to say and aren't going to make the program look bad.
Yes.
And that's another part of it. And that's part of the reason Bob Diaco got kind of pulled back. Like, this guy just keeps saying dumb thing after dumb thing. Or weird thing after a better way to say it is not dumb thing, because he was a really smart guy. It was weird thing after weird thing, and it's just like, this guy's a little off, you know, and you pull back on it.
Well, and if I'm the head coach, I want all that to go through me as well. And so I'm not in any way knocking Brian Kelly for having the final say and who gets to talk to the media. I would want that as well. And you're right. Kudos to him for allowing it to happen and getting those guys out there. That's good stuff.
Yep. Orange Glove Guy says, what is the reason for timing? Why is this being leaked today? What I have read is that A&M leaked this to try to get ahead of. That's what I read today, that there's reports that people think A&M leaked it because they want to get ahead of it and stop it from happening, is what I was told. So, it'd be very interesting. This is Jay Wiki Jr. asked this question. This is part of it too. We didn't discuss a lot. I do wonder what will happen to the rest of the Big 12 teams. I could see some merge with ACC, Pac-12, and maybe Big 10. But the thing is, not all of them, because the sad thing is, as we talked about, this is all about money. And I don't know what bringing in a team from Manhattan, Kansas, or Iowa City, or even Lawrence, Kansas, or Lubbock, Texas does for you from a money standpoint.
Sure.
That's
what it's all about.
That's the disappointing thing, which is exactly why the governor back then said, hey, you're going to take them, you got to take them.
Right.
Because he knows
we're
going to be left out in the cold. Right. And that would not be a good thing. And I mean, I could see some of those teams what could happen from a lot of this realignment is some Power 5 teams no longer be your Power 5 teams, you know, because football is the end all be all. And you may see teams that are just like, look, none of the Power 5 teams want them, so they got to go start their own conference with Houston and Rice and TC, you know, SMU and teams like that. And that may be what happens. I mean, who's to say anyone's going to want Texas Tech? What value does Texas Tech bring to your program? Well, they're really good at basketball. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Right.
It's about money, and there's no market. There's no Lubbock, Texas market that you're dying to get into. Now, TCU may, because you may say, hey, look, if you're the Pac-12 or the Big 10, hey, we're not going to get the big Dallas market, but we can get a chunk of the Dallas market by getting TCU, right? Because Dallas-Fort Worth area, that TCU's in Fort Worth. So I think there's some of those teams may bring some value, but the team playing in Waco, Texas, Baylor, the team playing in Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech is not going to be in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Our Farsirt, sorry if I butchered your last
I think
name.
That's a Big 10 person.
Okay, well, Notre Dame's never going to join the Big 10, so
I don't see it.
It's never going to happen.
He or this person followed up with, ours would help the Big 10 compete with the SEC. True. Yes. I think the Big 10 would certainly help with that, but it does nothing for Notre Dame. There's like no value to Notre Dame joining the Big 10 whatsoever.
Right.
It's all for the Big 10. And again, when Notre Dame wanted to join the Big 10, and we're going to have a second part of that coming out today. That second part of that article is going to be coming out. As soon as I'm actually done with this show, I'm going to edit that and put that up. But
And Searcher Green says the Irish aren't worried about helping the Big 10. And I tend to agree with that.
Well, they would if it meant also if it benefited them.
Sure.
Like if there was value to the Big 10 to joining the Big Ten, then I think Notre Dame would get over their hurt feelings from the Big Ten's anti-Catholic stances of the past. If it was the best thing for Notre Dame now. I wouldn't get past that, but the people the grown-ups making the decisions would get over that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
as they should. You know, they're not looking at it as a fan like I am. They're looking at it from. But there's just when I'm being serious now, as far as why I don't think Notre Dame would ever join the Big Ten. It's not because of the anti-Catholic thing in the past. That's part of it, right? Yeah. That's part of the whole package. But it's mainly about there's nothing in it for us to join the Big Ten. If the Big Ten made them an offer they couldn't refuse, then I think they'd strongly consider joining. No question.
Jay Wiki says, if need be, I'm all for Notre Dame to the ACC, but that's only if it's deemed necessary. And look, if Notre Dame is going to join a conference right now, that is by far the option that is on the table that I believe will happen, right? I mean, look, I think it was a lot of fun putting together kind of our NAC, conference and all that. But that would take a lot of work, and that would be a lot on the plate of Jack Swarbrick and whoever else he got to kind of get that thing going with him. And so, is that going to happen? It's a long shot. So the ACC is the clear path for Notre Dame as long as that stays together, as you kind of talked about before.
Jermaine Berkeley kind of brought something up during the Channel 2, which is kind of along the lines of what we talked about. How about Notre Dame using its weight with the television networks to drag schools out of conferences and getting them TV deals? Texas and a few others doing this already. That's kind of where our whole thought process came, is like, look, if you're going to do this and you're going to be forced into a conference, do you want to be a victim of the change or do you want to be a leader of the change? And that's essentially what it boils down to. Andrew Goss says you should put Cincinnati in it too. I don't see what value Cincinnati adds. I mean, look, the Cincinnati Reds are considered a small market baseball team that struggles to, compete and keep their players, right? I don't think there's a huge TV market in Cincinnati, at least not one that would be important enough to throw them in there. And I don't know if they bring the sports credibility that a West Virginia would bring, for example, because there are some teams in there that aren't in there because of the TV markets. That's why West Virginia's in there.
Right. Yep.
But, if you wanted to say, hey, put Cincinnati in over West Virginia, I'd probably push back on it a little bit, but I wouldn't be like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. I mean, okay. I mean, we can have that conversation, but I just think, again, the financial part of it doesn't seem to make as much sense.
D-Rock says if one conference becomes a super conference, other conferences will do the same.
They're going to have to.
That's the whole point of this conversation today. We agree
they're going to have to.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
Once it starts, it's not going to stop until it's going to be a complete reshifting of. And I like to use references and stuff. You ever watch that movie 2012?
I have not. I know
it's actually pretty decent, but like the whole Earth's crust destabilizes, and eventually things the continents realign. Well, that's happened. If you read like geology and history books, that's happened, before in our time, where the things realign and eventually it settles, and now you have your new continents, right? And it's the same thing here. It's not just gonna be like a couple schools and then everybody else like, okay, well, you do we're gonna just hang out. It's gonna set off a tidal wave of this, because again, they're gonna see the money that the SEC gets from ESPN and a renegotiated contract and say, hey, yeah, we want a piece of that.
Right.
What do we got to do to get a piece of that? Hey, Notre Dame.
Right.
And that's the other thing Notre Dame could do, is they could sit back and just let a bidding war start for them.
Sure.
But I don't see how that necessarily is going to be the best thing in the long run. I think it's going to have to be, I would like to see Notre Dame say, hey, look, we're going to set that agenda. We're going to determine what this conference is going to look like and be the leaders of it. And I think that would be a lot of fun.
R. Farsiert says Irish scheduling is in trouble now. It's not in trouble in any way. They have no problem scheduling who they need.
Yeah, I had passed over that one already.
Okay, fair enough.
Where are you at?
I think I'm at 209.
Okay, I'm down at 217.
Oh, well, I'll join you because you've gone
passed
through all
over. Yeah.
Okay, so you've gone all through all that.
Yes,
good. I love that. I will.
And
join
Jay
you.
Wiki Jr., I believe, went to Iowa State. Do my guys a favor and at Iowa State, please. And honestly, Iowa State was part of my original thought process. But again, as I stopped looking at it just from a sports standpoint and a football standpoint, you start looking at the basketball / market thing, I just don't see where Iowa State brings you a lot of value. I just don't.
Alan English says if Kansas and Kansas State were in different conferences, the state would burn down.
Maybe, but there would have been people in Texas that would have probably said the same thing about Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, and honestly, it's not a state that matters enough to, now again, what could happen to Alan's point is you could start seeing politics. I mean, look, because politics is already getting involved in college sports, right? We're seeing that with this NIL stuff, right? You could see things. We saw it with Texas the last time where governors say, hey, look, because again, Kansas and Kansas State are state entities.
Yeah.
They are state schools. They are public schools. You could get legislatures, hey, look, you can't break you up from a conference standpoint. You have to be in the same conference. And they could try to use that to leverage both teams getting in. But at the end of the day, in schools, in places like Iowa and Kansas, there's just not enough. People say, okay, fine, we won't need either one of you. We'll go against somebody else. They don't carry enough weight, in my opinion, for that to happen.
Interesting comment from Corey D. Says Alabama might be the best program right now over the last 10 years, but Notre Dame remains the most powerful.
I think we could probably debate that a little bit, but they're in that top group. And look no further than there was a 5-man committee determining the future of the college football playoff, and Jack Swarbrick was part of that.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I mean, you look at what Jack Swarbrick did the last time, the super conferences. If Alabama tried to throw weights around like that, people said, we don't care, because Alabama has a great on-field product. They're not a school that's necessarily has the overall weight to make those type of financial decisions, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. But to your point, yes, Notre Dame is still a very powerful entity. Yeah. There's no question.
Orange Glove Guy says, now you'll really know if Notre Dame is trolling IB if Swarbrick announces the new conference proposal.
There's no question. There's no question. It's a great comment.
I'm sending them